Hi everybody, hi, hello, welcome back, whatever. The point is, this program is being recorded on October 26th, Monday, like it's a week before the elections. We want to talk about President Trump, and it's not going to go on all the regular cablevision channels, especially on Long Island. Well, only on Fios, but not on Optimum, whatever. Because of the pandemic, we're not being able to use the studio, and they sort of shut down until further notice. But you can catch this on Google search. Google search Yeshiva Classroom, right? Just type in on Google search Yeshiva Classroom, and you can get this program. The regular Optimum Online channels are not functioning, so that's the only way you can get it on your cablevision is through your computer. And again, type in Google search, then Yeshiva Classroom video, and you'll see this program if you're interested. There's a heck of a lot to talk about, and I don't even know where to begin. You know, I just started this book on Mesilas Yesharim, which was written in 1600. In the 1600s by Rabbi Chaim Luzzatto, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto of blessed memory. He speaks on the soul and the body and its connections, and it's really a bulwark in Torah teachings. And I recommend everyone get that book. I mean, the Vilna Gaon said if he was alive in his lifetime, he would walk to Italy and learn from this Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. So I just started it, and maybe in the future we'll be able to speak more about get the Art Scroll edition, because there's a lot of helpful footnotes. But basically, you know, he talks about the makeup of the human, and he has a elevated soul, right? He has an elevated soul, and he has a body. Now, the body works for the betterment of its self, and wants to accrue happiness for the body. And what does he have to look forward to? He has old age and broken and not working parts, limbs and backaches and what have you. And the soul, S-O-U-L, is interested in happiness, but being that it's on such an elevated plane that it cannot enjoy the physical happiness that the body looks forward to. And the body, as we see, has no future after 120 years until the resurrection of the body and soul at the time of the Mashiach, when the Mashiach comes. Messiah. So the soul wants enjoyment, and it can attain that, being that it's on an elevated level, different than any other instinctual animal. It looks forward to the next world, the soul world, where we can enjoy the presence of the Shekhinah, the essence of God, and be in that confine. So that's a basic basic teaching, and this life on earth is for a Jew to strive to serve God. And how do you serve God? By doing the commandments, and thereby coming close and close and closer to godliness. And he brings out, Rabbi Luzzatto in that book, Mesiras Yesharim, right? Mesiras Yesharim, that he brings out that the whole energy of a person is to get to that closeness of the Vekas, the closeness to Hashem. You know, in Deuteronomy chapter 10:20, you should cling to Hashem, you should cling to God. How are you going to cling to God? It's by serving Him and doing the commandments that He directed us in the covenant that we brought down. So it's a very good book, I'm telling you. Believe me, I don't recommend too many books. Look, you should have a pad and a pen to take down notes, because you know the purpose of this program is not to have myself review all the things for myself, but it's to help and strengthen the thoughts that we all know, but may slight over because we don't have the time or what have you to review these things. So the body and soul are combined to produce a individual, and there are many details that we're not going to bring down right now, but just bear in mind that the soul is elevated and it's higher than the regular animal, and therefore it seeks pleasures not inconsistent with the pleasure of the body. Because what does the body have to look forward to after 120 years? Broken parts and aches and a lack of mobility and death. But the soul lives on. The soul lives on, and we want to get close to God by serving God. By serving God. And that means doing the commandments, right? Doing the commandments that were given to the Jewish people for them to attain this state after 120 years after his demise. So it's like this is the anteroom prior to entering the main dining hall. So you have to prepare yourself in the anteroom in order to enjoy a festival, a festive meal. So you have to work on the anteroom. And it's brought down that there are basically 4 or 5 factors that a man should strive to adhere to and to practice and to observe. And they are, you know, if you write this down in Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 12, a rhetorical question: what does God ask of you but to have awe and fear of God, to walk in His ways, to love the Lord your God? How do you love the Lord your God? An entity without any form. By these are the words, by looking at and studying the teachings that God made with the Jewish people, our forefathers. And it's very interesting to note, you know, the soul has feelings, and we can experience the soul, our soul, by the following experiment. If you, for instance, give a present to a loved one, right, a mother or father or spouse, and that person enjoys it, you feel good. You feel good that that person enjoyed your gift. So we ask, what is that gift? And is it your organ, your heart? But basically, we want to say it's your soul, S-O-U-L, soul. That is your happiness that one gives to himself, realizing there is a soul. And so you get that same feeling of goodness, of happiness when you get a kasha and a teretz, or just a kasha without the teretz. Kasha means a question, and that's how we basically learn Torah and Talmud. That's how we basically learn Torah and Talmud. Those questions. You know, why does it say such and such? Gee, that's a great question. And let me give you an example. You know, in the Shemona Esrei, we speak about in the Shemona Esrei. What did we want to say over there in the? Yeah, so it says. It's 18 blessings that we thank God for everything, and then make our requests. And we start out that with the Shemona Esrei, the 18 blessings. Of course, now there are 19. But basically, it says, Hashem Elokei Avoseinu Elokei Avraham. The God of our fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Now, why doesn't it just say God of our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Why does it need to say the God of our fathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob? Why doesn't it just say Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu v'Elokei Avoseinu Elokei Avraham Elokei Yitzchak Elokei Yaakov? Why does it have to precede those proper names with the word of God? Right? Just put them all, lump them all together, because we want to be precise and careful and not wordy and verbose. So that's the kasha, right? It's those that observe Jewish law and pray 3 times a day have this prayer in their most holiest prayer, the Shemona Esrei. And again, the kasha is, why does it say God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, right? Let it just say God of our forefathers, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Why all these adjectives preceding it? That's the kasha. That you're supposed to feel good about, right? So the answer is that we want to make sure when we say the God of our forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, it's not the God of our forefathers Esau, it's the God of, not of our forefather Ishmael, I'll get it right one of these days. It's like President Biden, Vice President Biden, he couldn't remember the name of his opponent. He calls him George. That was today. They brought it out in the news, but you're not going to see that in the mainstream medium. He couldn't remember the name of Trump. He couldn't remember the first name. So he has a screen in front of him, and they put out the answer for him. You know, these are senior moments, and when you reach a certain age, they're going to multiply. But a man of that state should not be running for president. Okay, I got tangential here. We want to speak about Trump in a while, but we just continue on this train of thought, right? So why is it? Because the answer is, right, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is not written, but it's written the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. And we want to make sure that when we're saying the God of Abraham, that his two sons, Isaac and Ishmael, we're not speaking about Ishmael, but we're speaking about the God of Isaac. And when Isaac had two sons, Esau and Jacob, he's not speaking about the God of Esau, but he's speaking about his brother, the God of Jacob, right? So that's a kasha, a question that sticks out, and you feel good about it, and then you get the answer, and then you feel good about it also. So you got thousands upon thousands of soul food goodies that you can learn and work on. But while we're on the Shemona Esrei, there is the most holy of the holy prayer in that repetition of the Shemona Esrei prayer, in that it's the Kedusha, Nekadesh Hashemcho B'olam. We will sanctify your name in this world, just as they sanctify it in the highest heaven. Nekadesh Hashemcho B'olam Kishem Shemakdishim Osav B'Shemei Morom. Kadosh, 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 Hashem Savaos Malach Haaretz Kavodo. Holy, 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 perfection. The whole earth is filled with His glory, right? The entire earth is filled with His glory. What does that mean, right? Let's go, because we say it two times a day in the repetition of the Shemona Esrei. And what that means is that the whole world is full with His glory. It means the objects and the processes and the cycles that He created in and on the earth deserve His praise. And we say, Kavod Hashem, glory to Hashem, meaning we are giving thanks and praise for all the objects and processes and cycles He created in this world, on planet Earth, and also on the heavens. So when you think and when you repeat the Kedusha prayer, preferably in Hebrew, but I mean it's like a prescription. You could you don't have to necessarily understand the Hebrew, but you can understand it in the vernacular and your mother tongue, which is probably English, right? Nekadesh Hashemcho B'olam. We sanctify, we make holy. Make holy means perfection. We strive for your perfection, and that's what we say 2 times a day. We bless, we thank God for the greatness that He surrounded us with. So, we say it every day. Now, last week I had an implant put in by my son, who I have a picture of him, and it was a tedious operation, really, because I had to endure the chair and get sedated and needles, and then put drilled a hole into the bone and put it in and whatever. It was time consuming, whatever, and I thanked him for it, but I thanked him the next day and the day afterwards, because I said, just like we thank God every day or every time we eat or wear new clothing, clothing comes from cotton or wool or synthetics. All these things are God given directly or indirectly. So I said to him, I said, listen, thanking you for one day is important, but it's similar. I want to say to when we thank God for everything He's done for us by saying every time I chew, I should remember that these teeth and this implant was through the efforts of my son, and it's not sufficient just to thank him once, but I should thank him frequently. So here we covered a little bit on the elevation of the soul and what it looks forward to, but it has to work in the ante-room, right? In Pirkei Avos, I think chapter 4, the ethics of our Father, it says the same thought: prepare in the ante-room so you might enjoy the main dining hall, and that means to work and learn and to observe the teachings. And write this down in Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 12. Rhetorical question says, what does God ask of you? And it says that we should have fear and awe of God, and we should walk in His ways, just like God clothed the naked in Adam and Eve, and He buried Moses. Chesed Shalem, as it's called. Let's call it a truth, a true good deed. Why is it called a true good deed? Because the recipient cannot repay you, being that he is deceased. So we learn that out, and that God. We want to walk in His ways of doing good deeds. You open up the book of the Torah, which is divinely given, right? Deuteronomy chapter 31:24. It was dictated to Moses, and then Moses made 12 copies of it and sent a copy to each of the 12 tribes, right? So we have the commandments that we should walk in God's ways. You should, or again, look it up in Deuteronomy chapter 10:12. Walk in God's ways. First thing is have awe and fear of Him. In other words, all the creations that are around us, we should serve. We should walk in His ways. They open up the Torah. It begins with kindness, ends with kindness. So the book must be full of kindness, right? So that's walk in His ways and love the Lord your God. How do you love the Lord your God? He's an entity without form. That's our paramount. And God is without form. And we saw, never did we ever see a form of God. And as a result, how do we love an entity which cannot be seen? With these words, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. There's only one God, and you should love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And then it says, with these words, you should put them in your heart. Whenever we see heart in the Torah, it really means mind. So here we got a little tangential in that, and we're on the Chumash. You got so many good thoughts to give over. It's hard to remember all of them, even though when you write them down. I would like to publish a book with all these good thoughts in it, just kashas and terutzim. There's a kasha in the last week's Sedron, Parsha Noach, right? And Noach, right? The first book of the Bible is Genesis, Bereshit, right? and then comes, it's divided into weekly portions, right? Divided into weekly portions. The first one is Genesis, Bereshis, or Genesis, and then comes Noah, the Parsha Noah, and then it comes Lech Lecho. But in Parsha Noah, it said over there that God will never destroy the world. Now, why would God want to put that in the Holy Bible? I'm sure these people were evil and they gained power and they used it in a wrong way, and therefore they were destroyed, and the whole world was corrupt and violence and thievery. So he said, I'm going to destroy the world. And we ask, the question is, why should you want to say that? And maybe there will be another generation that will be just as evil as the generation of Noah and those evil people that did very evil acts on this earth. That's the question, right? You feel good about that question? Good question? Then here's an answer. Answer is that prior to the destruction, people lived 700 years, 800 years, 900 years old, and once they had the power, say they were 200, they got this great power, so they'll just increase that power as they grow older, and no one will be able to confront them because it's all in the in the time frame that they will accumulate much more power and do much more evil acts. And being that lifespan was no longer that length, it was reduced to 120 years. Few people lived after that that time. So that's one question, and that's one answer, right? So you can find these questions and answers in the beginning by Rabbi Miller. Rabbi Miller writes very succinctly and to the point of giving you a lot of insight from the teachings that he learned from his rabbis. Here's another question and another kasha and a teretz in the book of Bereshis, in the parsha of Noah. You know, there was this gentleman, Nimrod, who was the son of Cush. Cush was the son of Ham, right? And Ham was the son of Noah. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Yophes, right? So Cush had Ham, then Cush, and then Nimrod. So Nimrod wanted to do good and have people congregate in cities because he was a builder and he built great buildings, and he had the people all live together. So they lived together, and he imposed upon them the will that they should all worship one God and God of the heavens and earth. But the problem was that God said, let me circumvent, let me circumvent the acts that they are doing, and he found out that it would not be good in the long run, and he broke off the buildings of these cities because maybe a evil person would come on the scene, and he would dictate that everybody had to be a certain vent, and it may not be the vent that God gave over to his chosen people, the sons of Israel. So he broke up the building. There was a Tower of Babel, And also, he created many different races, right? He didn't want everybody, there would be war as a result of this, but he wanted to break up the races and to brown, black, and yellow, and white, so that they would not be completely compatible with each other. And that is the story of the descendants of Adam. Adam, right? The descendants of Adam were many different races based on the fact that he had a dormant gene, and his dormant gene came to the fore, and as a result we have different races. It's interesting to note that the ziggurat that they built in the time of Nimrod also can be found in South America, where they built these temples. Look, me talking is counterproductive, because I'm doing the work, and I don't know how much everyone is imbibing, and if they're whatever. But look, you got to look at. I'm going to show you some pictures here a little bit, and see if we can jazz it up a little bit, whatever. Anyway, the point is that election is coming down, and before I go further, I want to say that our Bible is broken down into parshas, where we can read like 52, 53 portions, dividing the Torah up into portions. And when we refer to a portion, we use the head of that. We look at a sentence. We want a sentence, say, well, it's in a portion or the parsha of Noah. It's in the parsha of Vayero. It's in the parsha of Lech Lecho, right? So the point is that those parshas, those sedras, are long, and it's helpful in a way if we could find a shorter reference point. So it happened coincidentally that the Gentiles and their printers decided to make chapters out of the books, and they made chapters so that we could. So that's why they broke it up into chapters, and they broke the They formulated the chapters so that it wasn't a thought that was ended and a new thought began. They just thought that they were doing something that would be easier for the student to read. Whatever reason they did, they broke it up into chapters. Every book has chapters. So the Jews, they didn't do away with this chapter, this common thought, but they referred to if they wanted to refer to a sentence, they looked up. It was in a chapter, right? So they could easily find it, as opposed to a whole parsha, which are divided 52, 53 portions, right? So it'd be harder here to have chapters, 20, 30 chapters to a book. So you have many more chapters and more easily referring to your source. So here, I want to break this up and say that this is, due to the pandemic, they're not broadcasting, they're closing down many studios, so Optum Online you're not going to get. So the people that have that TV, but Fios you can get, whatever. Anyway, look, everybody can get it by going into their computer and getting a Google search, and just type in Yeshiva Classroom video. Google search Yeshiva Classroom, and you'll get this one, which is being recorded on October 26, 2020, just about a week before the election, right? So here we have President Trump, and I repeat this again. He reported on the news, not on the main media, but I believe Fox or some One American News, OAN, I think it's called, One American OAN channel, 113, I believe. Anyway, Biden couldn't remember his opponent's name. He called him George. He couldn't get anything past George, and that George is not Donald. So he has these screens in front of him that when he gets stuck, and it's quite frequent, he puts up these gaffes it's quite frequently he makes these gaffes, and they should make a documentary of all the ones he did mess up on. And it's frightening to think that a man could run for the highest office and have a dementia set in, and it's really scary. If he should get in, God forbid, we would really be in bad trouble. So I want everyone out there, if they want to take my advice, vote for Biden. Excuse me, vote for Trump. What am I saying? I'll have a senile moment and dementia set in. After all, I'm not a spring chicken. But we got to vote for Trump, and I know that he has done such a great job with the economy. He's restructured the deals with our allies and not so much allies, where he took over, restructured the China deal, and took our troops out of Europe, and let them pay their monies to protect NATO. Why should America have to foot the bill and help their economy by the soldiers spending money in those countries, right? And so our infrastructure is so bad. We look like a third world country when it comes to infrastructure. I mean, China has such monorails and high speed this and high speed that, because we brokered a bad deal, and this is what we have come on the scene. A businessman, not a politician, right? The politicians are in with the media, and I hope that once Trump gets in, he'll find and execute all those plans, and to see if there's any truth about it, especially to start off with Biden and his son accepting money. And Biden came in front of the camera and he said, I have not taken 1 cent from anybody. And here the laptop from Delaware, right, that's my home state, it shows the contrary. And Coney, he had this investigation into Trump, where the witnesses were not credible. They were not credible, and they worked for Hillary Clinton. And yet the Senate Intelligence Committee dismissed those charges of collusion with Russia. But Coney and Hillary got together, and they made a full investigation and the accusations. Now, also, they have this on a telephone call. They want to impeach. They want to impeach Trump on a telephone call, right? Because this man, Landsman, didn't know colloquial expressions, and he said it was quid pro quo. And they made a whole investigation with Adam Schiff and Nadler, Jerome Nadler, right? They said instead of working on a betterment of the government, they only wanted to destroy and impeach the president. Now you don't hear from them. They must have died out of lack of strength. But President Trump, he's like the Energizer, the rabbit that keeps on moving. I mean, to give 2 speeches a day is unheard of. I mean, he was really a person that is dedicated to love of his country and his fellow man, and not this conspiracy of the Democratic Party together with the main media. They don't report anything of value that affects the American people that Trump put forth. And I mean, like for instance, the unemployment rates have been so low, historically very low, continuously, and jobs and stock market, all gross national GNP, everything has been on the rise. And here, in 70 years, they had a breakthrough in the fact that United Arab Emirates, UAE, had made a peace deal with Israel. Sudan has made one, and Bahrain has made one. And they're dealing together with each other with hospitals and all kind of investments that they're dealing with each other. And do you see the media mention anything about this? I mean, this is a monumental breakthrough, and you don't see a word mentioned about this. This should be the full story of the entire newsreel of the peace between Israel and 3 Arab countries. Unreal, unheard of, and not a word. Now there must be some collusion to make sure that that Biden gets in. And once Trump gets in, I hope he goes after these people that have nothing in mind for the betterment of themselves, and and make some collusion, help each other out, and investigate exactly what's going on, what's the deal that these media companies are getting out from the Democratic Party. And I know that because the American people will listen to and prove by voting that this candidate made the right decision and presented his facts correctly and showed how much he accomplished during those 47 months. And it's a shame if this person, Biden, who is suffering from dementia, ever gets into the White House. And I predict, with everything going on, that Trump will win. And the only thing that they have to talk about is the pandemic, and they blame the pandemic on the president. Nothing else can they talk about, because he's only positive in all the things that came to America during the last 47 months. Something that Biden company couldn't do in 47 years. Peace with Israel and the Arab countries, unheard of, not mentioned anywhere in the newsreel. Okay, now look, it's unreal that we have a daughter who is an observant convert, Geyoris Tzedek, a righteous convert. And I want to show you a couple of pictures over here. And here we have Ivanka holding the lulav and the esrog in the White House, and she's teaching the other Jews how to use these greens and the holiday of Sukkot. Unreal that she should be, it's like a Queen Esther, and the Queen Esther is behind the scenes helping, showing her father the importance of following the laws of the Torah, which is following the laws of the Torah, where God has promised the Jewish people the land of Israel. He has promised the Jewish people the land of Israel. And everybody in their platform prior to their election say, we're going to make Jerusalem the capital of Israel. And nobody did it. Oh, nobody did it. Even the friendly Democrats who the Jews worship, the non-observant Jews worship, and here they spit in their face, and it's in our platform, we're going to make Jerusalem the capital. And what happened? Trump came by, 1, 2, 3, Jerusalem is the capital, and the Golan is now part of Israel, and all the maps and the embassies throughout the world. Golan is part of Israel. And here is, now God promised the land of Israel and its boundaries to the Jewish people. 5 times it's mentioned. It delineates the boundaries of the country. It delineates it. So how close can you come to the truth with President Trump at the helm? Now it says over there, write this down, in 12:3 in Numbers, whoever blesses the Jewish people will be blessed, and whoever is cursed, the Jewish people will be cursed. That pasuk, that sentence is written 2 times. It's written, let's see, the 12:3. My memory skips me. Okay, but here we are. Here we are, and this is the boundaries. This is where the 12 tribes of Israel exist. And this map shows exactly delineates the areas in which, for instance, Manasseh, Gad, Judah, Naphtali, Dan, Benjamin, all the Asher, Gad, and Issachar, and Yevulun, all of their boundaries. Each one is delineated. And part of that, Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh were over the Transjordan. This is the Jordan River right here, right? And the other side of the Jordan River, that's where Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben were given by God those lands. And that's why Jordan is so fearful. They get shocked when they hear that the Jews are coming, and they fear that they will take over their country, and because they know that it was given to the Jewish people. And here, the same Ivanka that held the 4 minim, the 4 greens, right? The lulav and the esrog and the hadassah and the rovos together to push back, so to speak, the evil winds. And here's another piece of the puzzle. This is the Holy Ark, which is in the Holy of Holies, right? and it has 2 poles on it ready to go at a moment's notice. And in here are 3 boxes, and in here the most holy objects, that being the stone tablets, right? The second stone tablets, because the first pair of tablets were broken when they saw the people dancing and making reform of the teachings of Moses. And there are 3 boxes inside, and here's the angelic features that on top of the gold plate, and the voice of God came in between the angelic features. So that's another picture, and the main thing is, excuse me, we have to learn Torah. We have to learn. And here's a picture of pre-war Europe in a yeshiva where they spent their time learning. They had 2 electric light bulbs. You see them on the table. There are 2 electric light bulbs. They didn't have any English translations, but they had to knock it out themselves. They had to figure out what is the Talmud talking about, right? And you know, he says over there, you know, in the first today you can get a Talmud, you know, and but in English, and even though it's in English, it's still difficult to understand. You know, the first Talmud says in Brachos, you can buy it for $10. You get a paperback book. I think it's ArtScroll puts that out. And here, look, the rabbi is banging out those words of the Talmud and explaining them. For instance, Me'amosai Kor Neshma B'Yarvin. From when to when do we read the Shema Yisrael prayer of the evening? That's the first Gemara, first Talmud. And the answer is from the time that the Kohanim enter to eat their truma until the end of the first watch. Now here's the kasha, here's a question for you. How does the answer the question? The question is, from when to when do we read the Shema Yisrael prayer of the evening? We learn in the Torah that we should read the Shema Yisrael b'shachbucho in the evening, u'v'kumecho, and when you rise us up. When you lie us down, when you rise us up. So that's when we should say the Shema Yisrael prayer, right? So the answer is, I want to know what time. You could say the prayer all day long, but what time is the prayer? What time, I want to know. So it's from the time the Kohanim enter to eat their truma until the end of the first watch. That's a whole time limit. So how does that answer the question? That's the kasha. But you read further, it'll tell you how to answer the question. So I'm going to leave that up for you, right? I'm going to leave that up for you to figure out how that answers the questions from the time that the Kohanim enter to eat their truma. That's when we can begin to say the Shema Yisrael prayer of the evening and get credit for it. We want credit. That's the name of the game. To do good deeds, come closer to God by doing good deeds. You'll see Ivanka Trump. Look what a tzedek is, a righteous person she is, a sanctification of God's name, right? Right? You should sanctify God's name. Where is that? 28:29, I believe. In no, I'm not sure of that either. Should sanctify God's name, and here she doesn't work on Sabbath, on holidays. She sends her children to a school. Of a Jewish school where they teach Torah, and she's a Geyaris. Some of the most righteous people and people who have given over so much to the Jewish people were Geyaris, were converts to Judaism. And that's why the first sentence of the Torah, of the 5 books of Moses, which was given to the Jewish people, says, the second sentence says, the Ruach Elokim merachevas al pnei hamayim. The Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters. What do you mean? What does that come to teach us over here? It was looking for a surrogate person to give the teachings to mankind. And it was given to Adam, and he couldn't follow the instructions. And the first 11 chapters were given to Gentiles. There were no Jews around until Abraham came into the scene, and he said he figured out the entire Torah. And chapter, look it up, write it down, 26:5, chapter in Genesis. Look, before I go any further, this is being recorded October 26th. October 26th, and here we have, you can catch it on, people have them online. You're not going to get it because of the pandemic, they're not showing. The studio is down. So we have on Google search, Google search, and you type in Yeshiva Classroom video. Write it down. You want to do a good deed, you tell your friend, because a lot of people don't know about it. So tell your friends on a computer, Yeshiva Classroom video. Google search Yeshiva Classroom. So what can I tell you? That's the name of the game, right? The soul, all effort is for the body, and the soul is never satisfied. All efforts are made for the benefit of the body. And what has the body got to look forward to? It only has old age and infirm conditions, broken organs, lack of mobility, hearing, sight. That's what we have to look forward to. And the soul is never satisfied, because on an elevated plane, it can only be satisfied by righteousness and holiness, and that can be gotten through the teachings of the Torah that God gave to the Jewish people. And the Jewish people, unfortunately, have not been taught in the correct atmosphere important subjects, as opposed to starting off with simple things. Even though they're needed, they've got to have ideology and kashas and answers. So that's a thing in itself. Now, the other thing I have is, before I go, is that, you know, the Jews constantly want to move. If there's a problem there, they think that their neighborhood is being integrated with low class. So what they do is that we have to move, and they run out and they sell the synagogues to Gentiles, and they make churches out of them, and the history repeats itself. And for instance, Brooklyn. Look, I came from Delaware. I don't know too much about New York. I finished the university down. Oh my Delaware, my beloved Delaware, for the sun is shining over. Yeah, so I came from Delaware. I came to the big city. That's a whole story in itself. But the Jews landed on the east side, lower east side. They said, it's dangerous here, let's go. We go to the Williamsburg, over to Williamsburg, East New York, Brownsville, Pitkin Avenue, Glendale. Kept on moving into Arvern. I was part of that. A relative, they lived there, and they built a building there, and they remodeled it, and on 57th and Rockaway Beach Boulevard, 57th. So what happened? Oh, the Gentiles are coming in, low class, low income housing. That's roof. And what about the poor people that didn't move? Who's watching after them? And where they moved to the 5 towns? They say, oh, now we have a great place. Then moved to Auburn and the Rockaway, and then to the Five Town. Oh, we got a good place over here. Yeah, yeah. They dump all the low-income housing into the Jewish neighborhoods because the Jews, they don't care about it. They want to help everybody, and what happens? They wind up running themselves because of the crime that is brought in, and as opposed to spreading it around a little bit. No, the Gentiles not going to have any of that riffraff in their neighborhoods. And you look at the Five Towns, they're building on Peninsula Boulevard. There's a span of a few blocks. They got 6 large synagogues, and they keep on wanting to build more and more. And you have the dumping ground for low-income housing at the border of Queens, right, which is right next to Far Rockaway, and Queens put low housing next to the border of Nassau County. So Nassau County and Queens, they both have that low element there, and eventually they'll take over the Five Towns, and the Jews will have to run again. But it can't happen here. So listen, all I can tell you is that we have gone over our time, and I wish everybody all the best, and we'll see you next time. Check our channel, whatever. Take care. Good night.